The town of Maple Hollow sat in the cradle of pine-covered hills, quiet and distant from modern chaos. Clare Thompson, a 34-year-old forensic psychologist, moved into a modest house on Willow Street with her 8-year-old son, Eli. She sought peace, away from memories that haunted her past life in the city. Across their house stood Maple Hollow Park, a neglected playground whispered about by locals. Its nickname, the Doll Park. Eli, curious and restless, wandered toward the park during their first afternoon. There, on a faded bench, sat a porcelain doll, its features eerily familiar: soft curls, pale cheeks, and a cracked smile. Clare found Eli holding the doll. She froze. The doll's eyes were chipped, but they seemed to follow her. Over dinner, Clare asked the neighbors about the park. Mrs. Doran, an old woman next door, murmured, "You shouldn't let him play there. Kids go missing, always after the dolls appear." Clare dismissed it as local superstition, but unease took root. Later that night, Eli awoke screaming. "The doll man was calling me. He said I'm perfect." Clare comforted him, but when she checked the windows, a new doll sat on the porch, a red hoodie like Eli's. Her heart dropped. Clare visited the town library the next day. Old newspaper articles revealed a pattern: missing children every few years, always near the park. No bodies, no suspects. One name surfaced repeatedly: Arthur Grimsby, a toy maker who lived on that land nearly 50 years ago. He vanished after being accused of luring children. No conviction, no trace. Back home, Eli began sleepwalking. He spoke in his dreams, whispering to someone unseen. Dolls started appearing inside the house, each more detailed, each more human. One stormy night, Clare followed Eli as he walked toward the park in a trance. Lightning illuminated a worn hatch beneath the old sandbox. Clare opened it and descended into a forgotten cellar, Grimsby's workshop. Shelves lined with dolls greeted her. Hair too natural, skin too real. She heard a soft knock inside a wooden cabinet. Eli. Alive but unconscious. Behind her, footsteps. Sheriff Marcus Bell. Calm, smiling. "Grimsby showed me how to preserve beauty," he said. "The town turned its back on him, but I kept the work alive." Clare trembled as he revealed rows of victims turned into dolls, perfect, preserved. Each one has a soul. They remember. Clare attacked Bell with a rusted pipe, buying time to free Eli. She poured kerosene over the room, lighting a match. The dolls shrieked, inhuman and angry. She and Eli ran as flames consumed the workshop. Dolls cracked and screamed behind them. Bell's voice echoed, "You can't destroy perfection." They fled into the rain. Weeks passed. The park was sealed. The town whispered again, but this time in fear. Clare and Eli packed up, ready to leave Maple Hollow behind. As they drove away, a girl on a bike paused outside the park's ruins. In the ashes, a new doll sat upright, clean, smiling. Its eyes blinked. Camille Duray, a young Parisian art student in her mid-20s, inherits a countryside mansion from her estranged grandfather, Émile Duray, a once-renowned puppet maker who vanished without explanation decades ago. The house, tucked deep within the forest of Alsace, has stood untouched since the 1970s. Curious and eager to escape the city, Camille arrives at the house with plans to transform it into an artist's retreat. Her first steps into the home are met with silence and the musty scent of untouched time. Layers of dust blanket everything. Old puppet sketches cover the walls, and wooden limbs lie scattered across long tables. As she explores deeper, Camille discovers a locked room behind a faded red curtain. The key is in a music box shaped like a marionette stage. Inside the room are dozens of handmade marionettes, each disturbingly lifelike, too lifelike. Their glass eyes gleam, their hair too real, and their skin oddly textured. One puppet, in particular, catches her eye. It's dressed in a red velvet gown, its face pale with cracked lips, its expression familiar. A tag around its wrist reads, "Elise, 1963. That night, Camille lies awake, staring at the ceiling. The house groans with age. Then, faint footsteps above her room, wooden creaks, a soft, rhythmic tapping like strings being pulled. She wakes to find one puppet moved from its shelf to her bedroom doorway. She convinces herself it must have been a draft or her imagination. The next morning, she visits the nearby village and stops by a small cafe. She chats with locals, but when she mentions her grandfather's name, their mood shifts. "Children used to vanish," says the elderly waitress. "Your grandfather's house. They called it La Maison des Marionnettes. Don't stay there too long." A retired librarian, Madame Chevalier, recognizes Camille's name and invites her for tea. She reveals the darker rumors. Emile didn't just build puppets. He didn't carve them, dear. He preserved them. Disturbed, Camille returns to the house and searches the attic. Behind a false panel, she discovers her grandfather's leather-bound journal. Inside are sketches of human anatomy, strange rituals, and esoteric notes about capturing the soul at the moment of death. The theory: through ritual carving, one could preserve the soul in wood, allowing consciousness to live forever. Pages of names match the tags from the puppet room. Camille's heart skips. Elise is among them, her supposed aunt. Family had always said she drowned at age 6, but her name appears beside number 17, red gown. Camille checks the puppet again. It has a faded birthmark behind its left ear, exactly like the one in old photos of Elise. The puppets begin to move on their own. At first, subtle, a head turned, a different pose. Then, Camille hears voices in the night, soft, pleading whispers. She tries to flee, but the forest outside the mansion stretches unnaturally, paths looping back no matter how far she walks. Her phone shows no signal. The mansion seems to breathe, its wooden walls creaking with intent. Driven by fear, Camille smashes open the floorboards in the puppet room. Beneath, she finds a hidden chamber. Dozens of child-sized coffins line the walls, each marked with the same numbers as the puppets above. Bones inside. Preserved hair. Names carved into wood. Suddenly, one puppet moves. Its eyes blink. It turns its head and speaks. "Puppet, Elise. He said he'd make us beautiful forever. But we never stopped screaming." Camille is drawn into the grand hall, where the largest marionette stands. It's a grotesque likeness of Emile, standing over 8 feet tall, with strings descending from the rafters, though no puppeteer is present. Its jaw creaks open, voice deep and splintered. "You are my blood, my hands live in yours. Finish what I began." Images flash in Camille's mind, memories not hers. The rituals, the carving, the screams of trapped children. Emile's consciousness is trying to pass into her. Images flash in Camille's mind, memories not hers. The rituals, the carving, the screams of trapped children. Emile's consciousness is trying to pass into her. Camille resists. She grabs a can of kerosene, pouring it over the puppet workshop. She lights a match. The marionettes scream in chorus as the fire takes hold. Camille drags herself out of the mansion, coughing, as the puppets shudder and burn behind her. The mansion groans one last time before collapsing into ash. Camille wakes in a hospital. Authorities found her in the woods, alone and unconscious. No evidence of coffins or puppets in the ruins, just tools, wood fragments, and ash. Weeks later, a nurse delivers a package addressed with no return label. Inside, a single marionette, perfectly carved in Camille's likeness. As she stares, the puppet blinks. After receiving news of her father's death, 28-year-old Elise Moreau returns to her remote childhood home in Hollow Hill, a sleepy village nestled in the French Alps. Her father, Victor Moreau, was a famed toy maker, renowned in the 1980s for creating lifelike mechanical toys that bordered on unsettling in their realism. Elise hadn't spoken to him in over a decade. Their relationship had been strained, especially after her mother's mysterious disappearance when Elise was only 10. She hoped returning would bring closure. The house is silent, heavy with dust and memory. The windows remain shrouded, letting in only slivers of gray light. Her footsteps echo on the wooden floors. Elise notices the faint scent of oil and wood polish still lingers in the air. In his will, Victor left her everything, including a sealed basement she was never allowed to enter as a child. The key is in a small velvet pouch marked with her initials. Elise unlocks the basement door late that evening. The air that rises is colder than it should be. She descends into a stone-walled chamber filled with hundreds of toys. Shelves are lined with dolls, jack-in-the-boxes, wind-up animals, ballerinas, clowns, all perfectly preserved. Each toy bears Victor's signature on its base, and all their glass eyes seem to follow her. At the center, a massive wooden workbench stained with dark streaks. A journal lies beside a half-carved wooden figure with an unsettlingly human smile. The journal chronicles Victor's obsession with creating toys that were more than entertainment. He wanted companions with consciousness. In the final pages, he references something called the soul gear, a component he believed could trap human essence within machinery. The gear required a donor's final breath to be forged. Names of missing children from nearby towns are scribbled in the margins, each one matching an engraved tag on certain toys. Elise stumbles back in disbelief. That night, Elise tries to sleep, but the quiet is too thick. A clattering noise awakens her. She finds the basement door ajar. A small wind-up monkey sits at the top of the steps, clapping its cymbals slowly. It wasn't there before. She places it back, locks the door again. But over the next few days, more toys begin appearing around the house. On the kitchen counter, beside her bed, one even sitting on the toilet lid, staring up at her. Then, the walking toy soldier appears, crossing the hallway at dawn. Its gears whir quietly. When it reaches her, it speaks in a small, broken voice. "You are his blood. You belong to us." Disturbed and desperate for answers, Elise returns to the basement and forces open a locked steel cabinet. Inside, jars filled with preserved body parts. Teeth, hair, fingernails, each labeled with names and dates. A smaller drawer holds faded ID cards from children who disappeared over 30 years ago. Her father had been harvesting them for his experiments. In the corner, she notices a velvet curtain. Behind it is a massive automaton, human-sized, towering over her. Half metal, half flesh. Its face is eerily blank, but half-finished features suggest it was meant to resemble someone. A brass plate at its base reads, "Project Inheritor." She stares at the machine's chest, where wires and gears pulse like veins. A quiet voice hisses from the machine. The bloodline must continue. Suddenly the toys begin to stir. One by one they activate, their mechanical limbs creaking. Wind-up ballerinas begin spinning. Dolls start crawling across the floor. Clowns with glassy eyes giggle quietly. Elise barricades herself inside her father's old study. Her hands shake as she tears through the bookshelves, hoping for an explanation. In a hidden drawer, she finds a second journal, smaller, bound in red leather. Her name is carved into the front. Inside, she reads the final truth. Elise wasn't adopted, as she believed. She was constructed, a hybrid of flesh and gear. The culmination of Victor's life work. A being with a soul, or at least the closest thing to it. She remembers strange moments from childhood, how she never got sick, how injuries healed too fast, how she once saw inside her arm after a fall, wires and something else. The toys outside chant softly in unison. "Finish his work. Make us whole." Refusing to become what her father intended, Elise rigs the basement with oil and old fuel canisters. She lures the toys into the workshop and lights the fuse. As flames burst through the wooden floor, the toys scream. Not electronically, but humanly. The massive automaton reaches toward her before collapsing in fire. Elise escapes the burning house, collapsing on the lawn, covered in ash and sweat. The fire consumes Victor's legacy. Yet as she lies on the ground, she hears a faint ticking beneath her skin. Steady, rhythmic, mechanical. 6 months later, in Vienna, a new toy shop opens quietly in an old cobbled street. The toy maker is a woman with auburn hair and a strange calmness. In the window sit beautiful toys, clockwork ballerinas, lifelike dolls, wind-up pets. A young girl stops to stare. One of the dolls blinks. Inside, Elise watches from behind the counter. She smiles, but her eyes no longer hold warmth, only precision